This is Drake Callender, and you've been listening to the Inter Miami Podcast.
How many more hamstrings do we have to give up to the injury gods?
That's probably, hopefully no more, but I could see 2 more.
It's been brutal.
Depending on how things...
It's been absolutely brutal.
On what how our rotation looks, even though we don't really have one anymore. So,
yeah, no, we'll get all into that because there are some strange decisions given, obviously, the circumstances. But welcome, everyone, to the Inter Miami Podcast. I am Jay Kington, joined today by Mr. JorgeDTA, member of the Pod Squad, co-host of Trav Chats, most importantly, legal representative for all things Inter Miami Podcast. So if you have, if a letter pops up and it's got, something George wrote in it, I feel bad for you. I'm sorry. How are you doing today, bud?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you doing?
We're hanging in there. We're just rolling with the punches. It's who doesn't love a classic Inter Miami multi-game little slump? That's the stuff that dreams are built off.
Well, for all of us who have been around all these years, it's not new, but at the same time, this one doesn't feel as bad as some of those others in the past.
It doesn't. There's obvious reason, right? We're dealing with injuries, resting players for the upcoming CCC second leg match in Mexico on Wednesday. So, there's a lot of stuff going on here. And, I feel for the team, Tata, the medical staff, trying to roll through the punches. It's the lows that make it all worth it, because then the highs are so much higher. If we somehow end up winning out on the CCC, all of this will be forgotten and we'll be as happy as could be.
Absolutely.
Been a little bit of time, though. I've been was out of the country for a week, then out of town for a week. I think the last episode was about, 2.5 weeks ago. A few things have happened.
Something like that. Yeah, you've been busy, and Trav's been traveling, so we've been quiet. So yeah, the whole network has been a little bit quiet over the last 2 weeks. So there's a lot to cover, but we've been here and paying attention, still communicating, but just not in the way that I think we want to, and probably the fans want to either.
Not publicly, still on all of our back channels. But yeah, could be worse. I could have missed a whole massive winning streak with some amazing results and stuff like that. So we'll just we'll kind of roll with the punches here. But we're not going to go through each of these matches and just beat ourselves silly here. We did obviously lose to the Red Bulls 4-0, Hattie by our boy, our love, Mr. Lewis Morgan. Hopefully one day we can get him back home. Drew out against New York City, and then obviously last week we had the Monterrey game and the Colorado game. So where do we start here, bud? Do you want to start CCC, or do you want to rip MLS first?
I kind of want to go back to that New York City game.
Okay, fair enough.
Just briefly,
okay.
Because I've seen a lot of people saying that that's our worst result in MLS this season, and I couldn't disagree more. I think we were just unlucky in that game. It's a 1-1 draw. Suarez had 2-3 additional chances to score that, their keeper stood on his head and was able to keep him out of the net. And I think that we were a little bit hard done, with not a full roster. And they played well, and they were able to eke out the draw in that result. But I don't think that result is painful in any kind of way, because the team looked good. I think that we showed a lot, and these things happen. That I'm a little bit more neutral / positive on that game than I think a lot of the people commentating about the team are right now. The Red Bulls game was atrocious for a lot of reasons, but I don't think we need to go back into that. But yeah, the New York City game specifically, I don't think was a bad result. I think we were a little bit hard done, and I think I think fans should keep that in mind because the team did play well overall that game.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of that frustration comes from New York City's not having a good season, right? They've been kind of a perennial, powerhouse in the East since Inter Miami's inception, but obviously there's a lot of plug and play going on with the roster right now. I think the most shocking thing leading up to that match was when that lineup came out. I mean, we were seeing Sergio Busquets as a center back, right? Him and Sailor paired up together, which they're not the fastest duo. So, I was a little worried that, Santi might come over top and just be able to get right through him. We did get Weingart, so, we do get some backup there, but, Yannick Bright at the start and Gressel up on the wing, which is something that I think we're going to probably just get accustomed to with Gressel. But, I'm right in line with you for not having Messi, which seems to be the catalyst to everything, which is a whole other conversation we can have about how we still have 3 other world-class players, but can't really get it done without Messi. Ran into Chris Henderson post-match and just chatted with him a little bit there. I was actually able to attend that one. That was right when I came back. Literally drove back into town. Gat Quinn went right to the stadium. Buddy mine, shout out Mike Fernandez, gave me 2 tickets. So I had canceled my credentials because I thought we were going to be out of town until Sunday. Ends up, we come back a day early. I get the tickets, so I get to bring Quinn, which I was really excited about because I don't get to bring my son to the games anymore because I can't take him up to the press box. So cool moment afterwards. You got to get a picture with Chris, and Chris said essentially the same thing that you opened up with, that we could have had three or four additional goals in that, and that Suarez wasn't able to put away these chances that just historically he does. I mean, Henderson called him a machine essentially. So. We'll take the point, right? It's obviously better than losing the match, but I think at that point everyone was really starting to set in that it's going to be a struggle if Messi's out, right? Especially as the season continues with all these games occurring, the different competitions and the international play, which I think also claimed Redondo. I think that
Right.
earlier in that week, which is tough, and it's just seesaw of emotions, right? Like the team gets great. We start getting some youngsters. We get the Diego Gomez, the Farias, the Redondo. Just looked so he was improving game to game, and he looked like he could be like second best player on the team outside of Messi. I mean, the kid's potential is amazing. But right when we get happy, they come and sweep your knees out, and you're kind of forced back to reality. But all in all, that pain is over now. The club made a big announcement. What was it, the day before? So Friday, and they were like, he's back, Messi's back, which interesting tactic, I guess, put it on Front Street right away. But hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully we can kind of pick up the pieces and mend this thing when he's gone on international duty. But yeah, I'm with you, buddy. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and just think the sky is falling, but I mean, South Florida fans are a special breed, man. One thing goes wrong and everyone just turns on you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a couple different things as far as that's concerned. You know, I obviously the scrutiny of the team and the results changed last summer when when we signed Messi, and the expectations that this team should win everything because we have Messi and now Busquets and Alba and now Suarez. Um, I think that that's a fair, it's fair to have for people to have expectation levels that high. I don't necessarily think that they're totally realistic because, this club is only 5 years old. This is it's not like we're making these signings and we had a very positive culture that was already existing. Like we're building the plane as we're flying it right now. And, I think we're kind of it we're at the tail end of that, but it's still a work in progress. The fact that we didn't really have a positive off season with all of the travel and things like that, that this team, has kind of gone through the ringer with, the amount of games that they've played, kind of the way that the roster build has gone. and has basically been, this like 6-8 month process of one piece at a time, little by little, shedding here, adding there, because of the restrictions of the league. This I think internally, if the front office could have just wiped their hands with 60% of the roster, they would have to sign all of the players that they wanted. But they have all these roster constraints and existing contracts that they need to work with, and they can't just sign the guys that they want to build the team that they want. We've kind of had to do this piecemeal, and we're still doing it. I don't think we're done. In this window, I think there's only a couple more days left in this window, or a couple week, or another week or so left in this window, and then we're gonna have the summer window again. And it's going to take a few cycles to kind of get the squad and the depth to the level that the team wants. Like, I don't think internally that they wanted to rely on 6 or 7, kids that have, homegrown kids. I mean, I don't think I like Lawson Sunderland. I don't think he was necessarily in the plans last July to be in the rotation for the midfield, and potentially starting games as a rotational depth piece. I don't think that's the optimal plan for him. They would rather him be getting games with Inter Miami 2 and help him develop, and then come in and step into the spot. And so, I mean, it's all of this development, all of this growth with the team and building the roster. In you factor in now all of the injuries that have kind of backslid a lot of the growth, and it's just incomplete. But incomplete doesn't mean bad. It just means that the expectations of winning everything need to be readjusted as things are happening. And I think, I still think that this team can win MLS Cup. I still think that this team can win CCC. I still think that this team can win Leagues Cup. I think this team can get to the Club World Cup next year. All of those things are still in play. It's just not happening at a 5-0 clip per game, blowing everybody out. This team is going to be competitive in all of those tournaments, and the other good teams in those tournaments and in the league are going to be competitive with us, because we're going to get everybody's best shot every single week. We need to be ready for that. And so I just want fans to recognize that and appreciate that this is incomplete, and that there's very little that can be done when you have injuries and a roster build and the restrictions on a team the way that we have right now, that we can get everything done in a time frame that people who watch international soccer expect. We can't do it that way. We have to do it a little bit differently, and we're doing it that way, and we're still doing a good job, I think. We just have to kind of readjust those expectations, given those barriers that to exercise those options that we want to have.
Very well said. I mean, I really appreciate how level-headed you have stayed. I mean, really since I've known you, right? Since we've been interacting, which is several years now, because even I can get caught up in some of that stuff too, and you kind of always remind me, like, stay grounded. The sky's not falling. And a great point you made is, we're not, especially like Lawson Sunderland, right? Or Yannick Bright. We're not really, given the injury circumstances, we don't have the affordability to bring them up to speed via Inter Miami 2, I think, at the pace that we would like to. We're having to kind of expedite everything and throw them into the first team and sign these temporary contracts and, bring them up so they can kind of plug the gaps, if you will. And we're asking a lot of these kids, we really are. I mean, these are all young men out there, right? I mean, the average age of the team outside of the Big Four is astonishingly young. So
yeah, I think it's like 20, 21.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, how many kids that should have been in prom in the last 2 years are on the first team right now? There's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a shocking realization.
I mean, a couple years ago, they were, having to have their parents drive them to and from the academy, right? Because they weren't even driving at the time. So, I get excited about the potential. You do see some flashes, like Leonardo Alfonso, I think, has been a stellar. I believe that was our second round pick in the super draft, and he was able to sub on in the Monterrey game. Unfortunately, our boy fan favorite, Robbie Taylor pulls up with a hammy injury, which seems to be kind of a recurring theme with this team. But he was able to notch his first goal last night against the Colorado Rapids. Yannick Bright has looked serviceable. Casa looked good when he played as well, and that's someone I specifically had mentioned to Henderson. So the good news is, right, that a team this young is really only going to get better the more they mature, the more they continue to train, the more the chemistry builds. So I know we've said it several times in the past about the academy. The future does look very bright. The academy's kind of not in a good spot right now. A lot of the coaching staff left, right, and went over to Lexington. I think Lexington SC is the club in Lexington, Kentucky, which I am still at one point in my life. There's a bitter rivalry between Louisville and Lexington with U of L and UK, and I would love to go see Louisville City play Lexington. So that'd be a pretty cool experience. But I mean, that kind of brings us into the Monterrey game, right? And there is a lot of questions leading up early this week. Like, was Messi going to be back and ready? That was always the plan. Obviously, he's been dealing with this injury since it was really initially reported last season, by Caden. But it's just this recurring injury that Messi hasn't been able to heal. But everyone figured, like, hey, if Messi's going to play, this is the game. I mean, all of our focus is in CCC. It's in the Champions League. It's to get to the Club World Cup. Everyone thought he was going to play. We shared that a source, and I might have to have you send a cease and desist letter to that source. For being inaccurate. That morning, it was looking like Messi was going to potentially start, but would probably get some playing time for sure. I think something probably happened later in training, tightened up or something. They didn't feel comfortable with it, so they opted ultimately to not play with Messi, which is tough against really, I think, any Liga MX team, but especially in such an important game, right? I mean, those lights are pretty bright when it's CCC time, and this is a formation where we saw Gressel, as a winger again. And we had Ruiz in the middle, who, I mean, played his heart out, but we all know what happened there, right? I mean, early yellow, second yellow, like not too late into the second half. So we are ultimately forced to play, the final third of this match. Really, 65th minute was when the second yellow card came and the red was shown. He was sent off. So the last third of this game, essentially, we're playing man down, and I look back, I think, at that night to you being level-headed as usual, because a lot of people were calling for the head of David Ruiz, and he needs to be benched for several games, and what a stupid mistake. And then you remember, he's 19 years old, right? Like, you're gonna make these mistakes. And I honestly, for coming into it with no Messi, and we've seen the team struggle with no Messi, I thought it was going to be like a 3-0 loss. I was quite impressed in the way the team opened up and the way they were playing, and being able to work the ball around with some efficiency, and ultimately going up, which I think in the first 20 minutes, I mean, shocked a lot of people, and of all people, Toto Aviles, gets a nice foot. I mean, just the composure to be able to kind of poke that in, coming in off a corner. But we opened up very strong. Monterrey kind of got a feel for the game, and the confidence got up, and like we said, Ruiz goes out, and 5 minutes later, they equalize with Meza was the one, and then we're like, all right, whatever. I don't know. You tell me if you thought differently. I was like, whatever. If we can get out of here with a draw, that's a win, because hopefully Messi will be back. But unfortunately, some late game magic by Rodriguez was able to seal the win, 2-1 for Monterrey. Now, there was some good news that came out of this, though. There were some consecutive yellows that had occurred in game. So Jorge Rodriguez will be suspended for the second leg, as well as Sebastian Vejas. He's also going to be suspended for the second leg. So at least two of their players are down, but I mean, it's not going to be an easy game on that second leg, which is coming up, Wednesday. I think it's 10:15. I'll have to look that up, but it's
I
tough
think
to
it's
go
at 10:20.
10-20. Yeah, it's tough to
Yeah.
go down to Mexico. We've seen the Liga MX team thrash some of the MLS teams. It's going to be tough. And
Yeah.
there was this whole chart. I'll have to send this to you. It's why I love the kind of statisticians in this in the sports world, right? Not obviously it's great in football and soccer, but just across the board, I just love that stuff. And there's like a whole table breakdown of what happens, what would go to extra time that could lead to penalties, what would have to be the score line for Inter Miami to win. We basically need to go in there and 2-0 we win, 2-1 we're going to extra time, right?
Yep.
And I mean, I'll send this to you. It's pretty wild, but there's going to be a lot of scenarios for Inter Miami to win, and there's really only one score line to get them to extra time, and the other ones are unfortunately heavily favored towards Monterrey. But I guess what were your thoughts of the game? I'm staying positive because it could have been a lot worse.
I mean, to the original point about kind of what did we anticipate with that lineup, without having any kind of inside source information, I think that my thinking was the same as most people, which was, they're being overly cautious with Messi over the last couple of weeks. They're resting him. No need to kind of wear him out with early season MLS games. We're still at the top, at the top of the table. Um, you know, let's just rest him, make, precautionarily, say it's a hamstring, whatever, to save him for CCC. When he wasn't on the roster, I was shocked because I fully anticipated him being available just because of the conspiracy theories, whatever, however you want to talk about it, just the gamesmanship of it. I'm okay with him not playing every game, especially if he's going to be available for the big matches. I expected him to be available for that match on Wednesday night. And when he wasn't, I got worried. Just like you said, I saw that this could become a problem for this team if we succumbed to some of the play that we had seen over the last 2.5 weeks with some inconsistencies, especially on the defense, depending on the formational setup, things like that. But that being said, that concern, and the result, kind of putting that to aside right now, I thought that this was Tata Martino's best game as a manager with Inter Miami. His tactical formation, his setup, the buy-in from the players really showed that this team, when they get things right and everybody buys in, can be an exceptionally good team in North America against the best competition and control games. They controlled that game against Monterrey for the vast majority of the game. The early goal helps, but Monterrey for the first 55 minutes of that match had no real ideas and were not able to break us down successfully. As things wore on and as the game stakes changed, that change. And I'm going to get to Ruiz and kind of how that affected the match.
While we're on this topic, though, he said thought it was his best managed game. What were your thoughts on the lack of substitutions? Right, I mean, there was really only two, and it was Alfonso on for Taylor when he got injured, and that was in the 37th minute, and then in the 67th minute, Sailor comes on for Alfonso after Ruiz goes out. At first I was like, well, he's probably trying to save the bench, but it wasn't really. There weren't
any options.
I don't know who on the bench you were really looking to save. I'm kind of surprised. I mean, you could argue you should have taken out Ruiz maybe after earlier on since he already had a yellow card, but I mean, so did Gomez. But I was a little surprised that like Busquets stayed on. Maybe give Alba some rest.
No,
For
at the
second leg?
at the point at which I mean, when you looked at the substitution list, right? Who we had two goalkeepers and two strikers, and then Alfonso, Noah, Sailor, and Sunderland, right? That was the total. Those were all of our maybe maybe we didn't even have Borgelin on there. So we may have just had Campana, Sunderland, Afonso, Allen, Sailor, Jensen, and DeSantos.
And who'd be the only like loss in Sunderland for
Right. I mean that's
Busquets, but then you're
where
jeopardizing going down even more.
right. I mean that's the like when you're in a dogfight, right, and you're up 1-0. When the second half started, I turned to my dad, who I was watching the match with. I said, like, what this game needs is for us to score in the 55th minute. Get a second goal, kind of extend our advantage, and then just kind of continue to play the way that we're playing. Because I haven't seen anything from Monterrey that has really scared me, and the team is handling them well. Within, like between like the 52nd and 56th minute, we had I think Ruiz had the opportunity in on goal, where he just wasn't able to strike it, and then I think there was another free kick from right outside the box. So we had two pretty good scoring opportunities in that that first 10 minutes of the second half that we didn't put away, and then things started to kind of slide away from the team, and it wasn't Monterrey doing anything. It was it was all the mental aspects of the game, and Ruiz getting his first yellow card in the second half, and then quickly 4 minutes later getting a second one for a completely boneheaded decision. There's no reason to have done any of the things that he did for that second yellow. He just lost his cool, lost his head, and did it.
I want to say that they were reviewing it because the first yellow was the 42nd minute, then the second one's in the 61st minute, but the red card is stated as coming in the 65th minute.
The first one in the first half was actually to Jordi Alba.
Oh, they didn't correct that on the sheet.
Okay. Yeah. So he got the two back to back in the second half, and so that first half one was the Jordi Alba. He got into the tackle right outside the box on the right hand, when you're looking at our goal on the right hand side, and Alba was getting up in the ref's face and had walked away. He was being real bombastic and flamboyant and stuff, and the ref came across the field. But what the TV caught was what looked like him giving it to Ruiz, but I think Alba was actually off the screen behind him.
Okay.
And that's who he was giving it to.
Because we get the radio audio in the press box, so not the not the TV or audio or anything. So yeah, I assumed that he caught it in the first half.
Yeah,
even more.
Everybody was confused. Everybody was confused about that, because I'm like, what did Ruiz do to earn that first yellow? In the first half. They came back and they corrected that. So that first yellow actually was to Alba, and then it was the two tackles back to back, the tackle and then the shoving of the player, the
forearm
back of
with the slap. Like, come on.
Yeah, it just it's like I played soccer in South Florida growing up. In high school varsity, with kids from all over the world, and I was one of those kids. I played with kids like Ruiz. Like, I understand the hot-headedness that happens in matches, and that is kind of, unfortunately, like there is a culture of that in South Florida to some extent, at least in my experience. Nothing about him personally. It's just, he just has to mature out of it. He has to. And his talent is such that if he doesn't, it's going to undermine his career, because he is extremely talented. And I think that he can, and I think that he will. But it's just like, that moment was not the time to lose your head over something simple. Like, here they are, you have the lead, you're winning. And they're really not doing anything. Yeah. You're just having, you're just kind of off on the back foot a little bit and having to defend. And like, yeah, they're probably getting chippy. They're probably saying stuff to you. He just has to get through that stuff. Because as soon as he gets that red, that's when the game changes. Mm-hmm. And like you said, looking at the substitutions available, who are you going to how else are you going to replace that? Because with Taylor coming off and Afonso coming on, who I think did really well, that was the other opportunity, right? Was the shot that Afonso took, that if he had just laid it off to Suarez, that was a goal. You know, like that was
and
a
Suarez
goal.
was a little frustrated about that.
You know,
But,
and I understand.
your
I
eyes are going
understand
to get
Suarez's
big
frustration.
as saucers, when you get that pass and you turn, it's lay off to Suarez, right decision. But can you blame the youngster? I mean,
No.
everyone wants that first goal with the first team.
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand why he took the shot, but man, the opportunity, the tap in goal was right there to Suarez and the give and go.
The chances were there. I'm not going to say that we did well in finishing any of those chances because, I mean, 8 shots in total, only 2 on goal. And then, in that second half, Monterrey started to come alive. I mean, 20 shots with 7 being on goal. I mean, you could see the flashes, but just ultimately wasn't able to get the job done and get that insurance goal or just get the equalizing goal. Although, I mean, what are you going to do? They score in the 89th minute. Your back's against the wall. And while we've seen the team do magic in the past, especially last year, that was basically Messi was the catalyst, and without him on the field, that's a tall order to ask from the squad.
Without him on the field, a man down, having defended for at that point 30 some odd minutes, like, and without depth to kind of refresh the roster and bring in fresh legs, like all of those things combined to Gomez just losing focus and having a ball roll right off his foot, and that just turned into an absolute banger of a goal, in the 89th minute there. And that, it sucks. A 1-1 draw is a lot better than a 2-1 loss at home. But those were the breaks.
Class strike. It really was. I mean, but that's one that like you hate to see it, but like at the same time you appreciate the touch there.
Yeah. And I think for me, like the things that have plagued this team over and over and over again, when we're at our best, is turnovers in our third, with sloppy touches, sloppy passes, like unable to break a press. And that's where I think early in the season, late last season, when we were giving Busquets some stick about his play, was his inability to either keep control of the ball under pressure in tight spaces, with his with it like either facing goal or his back to our goal, in our third, or just bad passes that bad turnovers that send teams on breaks. And we eliminated that from our game up until the moment Gomez did that. That was really the first time that we kind of got sloppy in that area, and it cost us. And I think not having been, if we had been even, I don't think Gomez is expending as much energy and probably is a little bit sharper in that moment. And if we had any depth on our bench, we could have put in somebody with fresher legs to kind of keep up momentum. I think Gomez or Ruiz coming off for Sunderland and keeping the team's 11-11, I can be okay with that given game stakes. But when we're down a man, like I can't see Gomez coming off the field at that point in time. And it's just one of those things where I understand why we went to 5 in the back. I hate 5 in the back with this team. I've never liked it.
I'm with you.
I don't like, but I understand that like you just had to build a block and keep it as tight as possible. And it was doing okay, outside of the first goal. It was doing okay until that ball rolled off Gomez's foot. We were kind of, we had stiffened a bit, but I don't think that this is an absolute disaster. And I don't think that, Wednesday night is any sort of lock for Monterrey. Yeah, they have home field advantage, but I think we're going to come in real angry. And I think that that's one of the things that we probably should talk about is like what happened after this match, allegedly.
Yeah.
And what that says about this team and what do you think, we should expect because of that?
Well, it's not going to be easy by any means. Sure. There's the healthy possibility we go out there and we win, but we are coming in there at a disadvantage. CONCACAF is one of the few, if not the only region that still does the home and away goals. So, I mean, we gave Monterrey 2 away goals, which is pretty massive. So, like a 2-0, right? If we get the two away goals in there and we can hold them, we can walk out of there. But I mean, outside of that, we're either going to score 3 or 4 goals. It's looking like extra time could be a possibility. But to your point, the fun topic of discussion here was a post game incident, which I'm never going to condone. Going over to an opposing coach or locker room and talking smack to him or anything like that. But let's step back here and look at the entire picture, right? Where Monterrey was kind of already chirping about the whole Messi thing and how the CCC wants Messi to win, so the refs aren't going to be fair to Monterrey. Just putting all this BS out into the universe to, I don't know, some woe is me story. And, after the game, I think Messi was obviously frustrated he couldn't play. You got to go sit through that and see your team lose the first leg. Allegedly, Messi went to go have words with the head coach, right? With Fernando Ortiz. And, the gang kind of went with him, right? Jordi Alba was there, some others, and allegedly, and no one's seen any proof, or I haven't heard anyone kind of concur with it, but allegedly Jordi Alba put his hands around the throat of Fernando Ortiz. Honestly, to me, it sounds like he's just trying to play the victim now, and they're filing a complaint to try and have Messi banned for the second leg. Like, you came out, said the refs were going to be unfair because they want Messi to win. Then you come out and say Messi's just one player. One player isn't we're not going to be afraid of one player, or it's not going to change the game, something along those lines. And then here you are like, no, please, do whatever you can. Here's a complaint. Let's try and keep Messi out of the second leg. It just seems very pathetic for a lack of, a better word. I would be extremely shocked if any action was taken against Messi. Words are words, right? Depending on how they see the whole Jordi Alba choking situation, maybe I could see a suspension there. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, just play on. This is why you don't talk a lot of smack leading up to a match, and why you shouldn't talk smack after it, right? We're not rivals, like, it's not Orlando City. There's obviously a palpable tension and kind of hatred towards each other for our actual rivals. Like, we don't care about Monterrey. Like, sure, you were a respectable team in Liga MX. You've had success in the past. They won the CCC several years ago. I think when Pizarro was still there. But, like, come on, like, let's get real. There's no need to create this fake situation of animosity. It just, maybe you're doing it to try and hype up the game, but it kind of comes off cheesy to me.
I mean, I think that there is, first off, I think that there's been some backtrack to what occurred and some clarification from other people, and I don't know where I either heard this or read this, but that the allegations have been kind of amended, that no one was actually struck, but that, Messi threw his hands up and near someone's face and, drawing back and forth. The last thing that I would want to do would be to fire up these guys more than they already are, especially post game after a loss at home. Because, while it is going to be difficult to go into Monterrey and that stadium with all of their fans, screaming and creating an environment that is going to be difficult to play in, you're talking about 4 guys on this team, the leaders on this team, who have done it in bigger, more hostile venues than that.
Yeah.
And have done it at the highest level on the best teams that have ever been put together, arguably, and have produced in those moments. If I as a coach, was faced with an opposition that had a track record like that, I wouldn't be saying anything. Mm-hmm. I'd be saying this was a great result for my team. We showed that we can compete in this environment on the road in America, and that our place in this competition is a strong one. But I wouldn't be highlighting, a single player or group of players on the other team when the other players on that team have done more in their careers collectively than Monterrey has in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the trophy cabinets of the four guys is insane on this team, and they have pride in the work that they have, which is, you know, has been on display throughout their time here in the fact that they take this seriously. Like, these guys aren't here for a relaxing, you know, send off. This isn't, you know, this isn't the first 18 months of Gonzalo Higuain on this team. You know, where, you know, obviously he has his redemption arc at the end, but these guys are not showing us that. This isn't a Blaise Matuidi. These are guys who still want to play and, you know, and can do it.
And you can see
are
they're
not
frustrated.
afraid of the stage that they're about to walk into this week.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see Alba will get frustrated with different players, right? I mean, I think it was in the NYCFC game, like he got in a little spat right before the half, or as they were walking into the locker room with Busquets, and like he wouldn't even talk to him. It's they want to win. I'm to your point, right? Like their careers are all amazing. But isn't it a pretty well-known fact that the last person in the world you want to piss off is Messi? That's when he really turns it up, and right in line with him. The other one is you don't want to piss off Suarez. And those two players coming in with a grudge or playing with a chip on their shoulder, that bodes very well for us. I mean, the Monterrey plan of action, I think, is going to backfire if that's, you know, the best strategy they have.
Yeah. You know, I agree. And, you know, I think that, you know, I think we kind of got a little bit of a preview of that last night in the Colorado game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we start that game off, Messi's on the bench. Suarez, I mean, all four of them are on the bench to start the game. And, you know, what happens at halftime? Messi comes on, and he looked good. He looked real good. I mean, it just, you know, it's hard, you know, it's nice not seeing him every week sometimes, because when he comes back and he does the things that he does, like, I'm not desensitized to it. I'm just like, God, this guy is so special.
Yeah.
And it's just, it is just what he is. And watching him last night against obviously an inferior opponent, you know, but also with, you know, kind of a B- team around him as far as like our starting lineup, he impacted that game immediately. And so if he's going to be, you know, as close to 100% as possible for Wednesday night, I think that does really bode well for us. But, you know, you want to talk about last night's game a little bit in detail?
Yeah, we can. I mean, real quick, I guess just for the fun of it, what's your prediction for Wednesday night?
I think, I mean, Monterrey's going to do one of two things. They're either going to try and come out on the front foot and put us away early and really have us try and dig out of a hole deeper than what we're already in, or they're going to use their home field advantage and kind of play back and play the game that I think that they expected to play last Wednesday, which is letting us have more of the ball. You know, because we didn't actually have more of the ball in that first match. I think that they may just say, let's weather this storm, you know, because we have this in hand. If nothing changes about the result right now, we win. If they score one goal, we win. Right? Now, if they score two goals, Monterrey, you know, is no longer in the driver's seat, but they still have to give up two goals to be put in that position. So
2-0, we win. 2-1, we're going to extra time.
Right. And then any combination of any, you know, that's really what it comes down to. 2-0, 2-1, and then anything more than 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, any kind of combination like that, we advance, right, on away goal differential. So we have to be coming out on the front foot. And so I mean, listen, you know, I try and be level headed, but like I could see this being like a 4-2 game for Inter Miami. And it's just one of those kind of shock the world moments where everyone's clicking, and both teams are going to be scrapping. But I could see it being one of those games where the superstars truly take over. They're all, everything clicks for everyone at the same time, and it can be a blowout. I can see that happening, and I'm going to make that my prediction. A kind of a barn burner Inter Miami win, just kind of game of the ages for an MLS team on the road in Mexico against one of the best teams in that country. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with that. I can see the game going in a lot of different directions, and none of it would surprise me. But I think, that in this moment with what this team wants to accomplish, that has to be the goal, and that this is the moment we'll see them do something like that, something special. I think we're going to see something special Wednesday night.
I'm in line with you, right? Because it has to be something special. This isn't like, last night, like a league play game, right? Where, you go up one goal and okay, we're winning. Like, let's try and get another one. If we don't get one, as long as we don't concede, we win, or we're up two, whatever. Like, they're going to score once, and they're going to know they still have to score more to make it out of there. So I think we'll see that. And I mean, honestly, if Messi starts, if the big four start last night, and we get 90 minutes or close to it, like we're winning that game. As Messi comes on, we score twice last night within essentially a minute of actual play. I think it was 2 minutes on the clock, but given the celebration and reset. So I'm with you. I'm honestly, I think it's going to be closer to about a 3-1. That's where I've got it, at least in my head. I think Messi's gonna have a chip on his shoulder. I think Suarez will as well. I think Alba and Busi will elevate to where they need to be. I think we're gonna have a pretty full strength back line. And as long as we can get a red card and we're playing a man down or something like that, then I think that there's a very strong chance we can come out and win. It's going to be an exciting match. It's going to be late at night, but at least for us. But it's definitely something to look forward to. And if it goes how either you and I are thinking in our heads, then it's going to be kind of one of those memorable matches of an MLS team going down to Mexico and really putting on a performance. Backs against the wall. This is what we have to do. And we can get into the Colorado game. We just want to take a quick break because we do have a little announcement here, and we're going to be pushing this on social later today and throughout the week. But we are partnered up with 10th Level Tavern, which is a video game bar that is right across the street on the south side of 38th from Funky Buddha. So it's in Oakland Park. Again, they are a video game bar, so they have like 100 craft beers on deck. They sell wine and sake as well. Pretty cool layout. If you're familiar with Fort Lauderdale or Oakland Park, you probably know of it. But we are hosting an FC24 EAFC, so aka FIFA tournament, which will be on the last Sunday of April, so April 28th, and it's at 10th Level Tavern. The warm-ups will start at 5 p.m. They open at 5 p.m. The tournament is going to start at 6 p.m. So if you want to get in there, get a little bit of warm-up in, you can. It is a $15 entry fee. It will be pretty standard how we used to run tournaments in the first couple seasons through the Inter Miami podcast. It's going to be a series, best of 3, tournament knockout bracket style, $15 entry fee. 5 of that does go to 10th Level Tavern for your minimum purchase requirement, but the remaining $10 will all be in a pot. Winner takes all. So we will post the link on how to register, and then once we have everyone registered shortly before the tournament starts, we will generate the bracket, and that will be something, again, the last Sunday of April, Inter Miami Podcast and 10th Level Tavern. Keep your eyes out for that. We encourage everyone to get out there. We have a game, an away game, the night prior. So everyone's Sunday should be fairly open. Come out, have some fun, have some drinks, and show us your FIFA skills. It is all PS5. They do not have Xbox Series X yet, or one, whichever one it is. But it's all going to be PlayStation 5. If you're a good FIFA player, you can play on both consoles. But if you are bred in or tried and true in the PS5 world, and you got some skills, let's see if you got those skills. It'll be a fun event. We'll be there throughout the duration of the event. Cash prizes, probably some other things we'll throw out there as well, but should be a good time.
Oh, are you hinting at some Inter Miami podcast swag?
Yeah, I think I'm hinting at that. We'll figure out what that looks like, but yeah, we got some extra jerseys on deck. Some kits that we can share. Like some other accoutrements around the house that I've acquired throughout the years that are still in packaging or never been opened or never been used. And, we'll make it fun. We will make it fun, whether it's, 16, 32, however many people sign up. It might be, if there's a lot of people, it might be a late night for me, but we'll be there to have some fun and host it. And I think we're going to work out some sort of structure to stream some of the games, especially as it gets into the later rounds, probably quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, stuff like that. So I'm still working out those details, but slide through. Again, it's right across from Funky Buddha, if you're familiar with that, is in Oakland Park, which is essentially kind of in Fort Lauderdale. I love how every different block is a new city down here. It's always fun, but look forward to seeing everyone April 28th. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's have some fun. Last night's game, again, it's just an hour before every game when they drop those lineups, there's always some questions in there. What stood out to me in this one is we decided to play Toto Aviles as a CDM in the midfield there, and Noah Allen as a center back and David Ruiz as a right back, which, you might have kinder words than I do, but it just seemed like a very odd decision to play three people out of position when you really could have just played one. I mean, you could have just had Toto be the center back and Noah Allen play as right back, and you could keep Ruiz in the midfield. And the only one really out of position would be Noah Allen because he's a left back, not a right back, but that's not that drastic. But instead, we have three playing out of position. And I mean, props to Noah Allen. I thought he played, very well. He's got a lot of energy. He's gonna bust his ass. We know that. The only concern there that I really had was, he's not the tallest guy, and center backs, typically are kind of more of the bruisers. But come out, go down. Let's go down one in the first half, which wasn't really the end of the world. But what really stood out was, none of the big four got the start. What were your thoughts just going into that and then seeing none of them in the lineup?
I think initially my looking at the lineup and kind of having watched, Colorado's build in the offseason, I was concerned a little bit. I think Colorado has been hard done so far this season in some of their matches, but they've started to show something in the last, week and a half, 2 weeks across their games. And, there's talent on that Colorado team. Now, if our starting lineup was not just the changes that you discussed, but Afonso started as a winger. Gressel was Borgelin was a second striker. So Gressel was a midfielder, Borgelin as a second striker / right winger, but really just kind of a second striker.
Another one out of position. He's a big dude for a winger, right?
I know. And then Franco Negri comes back onto the squad and slides into that left back spot. And, I was really kind of curious as to how he was going to look because, we've missed him. I mean, he blew his knee out last season. He was probably my favorite player of the new signings from the team last season, December of 20, or I guess January of 23. And so it was nice to have him back because I think we've all missed him, and what he can bring because we've seen him be a good player in this league on a very bad team, admittedly. But there was a lot of change in this lineup, and I think that the first 15 minutes of the match or so were really dominated by Colorado, but nothing was terribly threatening. I think Sailor was kind of doing Sailor stuff. Noah, I think, you already said it, was stepping into good positions, doing the things that we know Noah can do, which is like his anticipation and his pace is what makes him really hard to beat from that center back spot, I think, because he doesn't have the size to body people and to hold and to deal with a hold up striker. But if you have someone who's going to want to get in behind, Noah Allen's anticipation is incredible. The amount of balls and angles he cuts off because he takes the step and sees the play coming faster than the attacker is, I mean, he kills attacks that way. And I think between him, Ruiz, and Toto, all playing in those three different positions, we've seen each of them play those positions at different times over the last, 8-9 months. We've never seen them all do it simultaneously in one match. And I think Toto was pretty much invisible in that first half, from that kind of CDM spot. He didn't do a lot, but he was covering ground. But he didn't feel impactful in the game. I think Ruiz from that deeper position was doing well to get forward, and was giving enough defensively, and he was just putting in the work. But Negri was doing a really nice job on that left-hand side. He didn't seem to be, he seemed to be fit. He seemed to be sharp. And I think that is a really nice depth piece for us, to have come back onto the team. But yeah, I mean, Sailor gives up the PK with, he just kind of, he misreads the cutback and, catches the striker with that tailing foot on his slide and, brings him down. Early PK, they put it away and it's 1-0. And from that point on, it was basically like it didn't feel like a lot was going on until the second half of the match. Like they got their goal, but they weren't really dangerous otherwise outside of that moment. But yeah, then the second half comes on, and on comes Messi, and the game changes.
Mm-hmm.
The game changes in a really positive way. So, you want to kind of take it from there and kind of.
Yeah, I mean, Messi comes on, and then 10 minutes later, Busquets is on. 7th minute, Alba's on. So, yeah, the boys are back, and I mean, immediately, it's just shocking again the fact that we have 3 other world class players, and it's just, even when Messi's off, it's like they can't get together. But when Messi's on the pitch, it's magical. I mean, I think at some point, I can't remember if it was through the headset, because I'll sometimes have the Apple TV audio coming through an ear, but then I'm also pumping the radio channel. Someone said like Harlem Globetrotters, and yeah, at times there were. Not to backtrack too much here, but a little bit of a concern. Campana goes down in the 42nd minute. Diego Gomez comes on. Looks to be a hamstring injury for Campana. So, I mean, obviously, fan favorite for a lot of people that were here pre-Messi. I hope that's nothing substantial. Certainly is going to hinder him getting back to the form that, that captured all of our hearts 2 years ago. But yeah, Messi comes on, and now we can move the ball with ease. We see him in increasingly more just, what's the word I'm looking for? Why am I blanking it? Confident. There we go. It's a very basic word to lose to forget. And then Messi comes in with this beautiful first time shot. Negri with a phenomenal 1-2, and then makes a marauding run down the left hand side, gets the ball. A little bit of a cutback towards Messi, kind of top of the 18 there, and just bangs it. And I mean, hits the ball purely, curls it, hits the post, bangs in behind the keeper to equalize right there. And then before I could literally even get the tweet out, play had resumed, and then within again like a minute of actual playing time, Messi spots Ruiz on the right side. And Ruiz cuts ball back, and then here comes the kid himself, right? The second round pick, Leo Alfonso, who maybe caught a little bit of flack from Suarez for not giving the ball back to him. So Suarez could take the shot, but he finally gets to open his account. Nice finish, just nice clinical finish from Alfonso to open up his scoring account. And, within a minute, everything just turns on his head, and it's everyone's happy again. It just shows you exactly like how quick Messi can turn everyone's feelings around. And, he's involved in both these plays, obviously scores in one of them. And then they still played very well. Just the connections, the grace, and the fluidity of being able to move the ball wherever we wanted to. Lot more threatening, but maybe kind of regrettably, the team stays in a very aggressive attacking mindset in times that can really expose the back line, which has struggled, obviously, as everyone's aware. And then ultimately Colorado are able to equalize the game in the 88th minute from Cole Bassett. So that was a little heartbreaking. Now here's really where things get interesting, and I'm curious on your thoughts here, because it happened. I was laughing. The press box was kind of laughing. It was kind of funny, but they score in the 88th minute, play reset. So within a minute, we're already in added time, and I think they issued 6 minutes of added time. So we've seen the Inter Miami magic. We've seen the Messi magic of being able to sneak something out in the dying embers of a game. But I think it was the 91st minute. All of a sudden play stops, and somehow this young girl can jump from the stands over the ad display boards, right? The electronic ads around the stadium, gets through all that additional security that they brought on. You've seen them at halftime. If you're at a game and the whistle blows, all of a sudden these people just come back, trotting out, tons of them, because no one can get to Messi. Somehow this little girl gets through all of them, runs up to Messi, snaps a selfie, and then a few minutes later, a young boy does it, gets through, gets a picture with Messi. Now, security treated the young boy much more harsh than they did the girl. Security ran up to the girl and props to Messi for even allowing the picture to go down, but he kind of shields her from the running security. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, why would you do that in added time in a tie game where we need to try and sneak out a point? I mean, that delay, that cut off at least a minute each, if not more, of the added time. And then, some people started to get pretty upset about it, especially the people that have been here, pre-Messi, and it's weird because, like, obviously the fandom's there. Like, the girl and the boy got a one of a kind picture photo with Messi, but like, yeah, I mean, was there a possibility that we can sneak out a goal in added time and win the match? Of course there was. Was that hindered because two kids decided to run on the pitch to get a picture with Messi? Yes, it was hindered. Would I have wanted to be in that post-match security meeting or debriefing? Hell no. I'm sure they got reamed out. I don't know where his son was. He was not able to get there in time or anything like that. So I don't know if they have to increase security, fire some people, bring in new ones, or just make them more alert. But 2 times back to back was not only hilarious from an outside standpoint, but kind of shocking that it even got to that point.
Well, so I, watching the game from home, I was aware of the young girl because she made it onto the broadcast briefly, but I, there was a quick cut to it, saw what was going on. I was like, oh, okay, and then they cut away. I had no idea about the second one until right now.
Really?
Yeah, I had no idea that there was a second one.
I don't know why. It's kind of like they do that with like the World Cup and the Euro. If like a streaker gets on the field or something, cut away. Don't give him any camera time. That's going to stop it. Like it hasn't stopped it in however many years they've been doing that.
Right. I mean, there was the famous woman in baseball in like the 70s and 80s. She, very voluptuous woman who would run out onto the field and hug and kiss players, and she would do it all over America, right? It's been happening for a long time, in this country at least. It's going to continue. It hasn't, nothing, not putting them on TV hasn't stopped the behavior. So I kind of like to know when it's happening, so I understand contextually what's going on. But the broadcasters don't even acknowledge it.
I know, and I'm on the side where I'm like, I'll root for them to like not only get on the field, but then if I've seen a few like get out and can escape and just run out of the stadium and not have to face charges. And I don't know if they find that little girl or the little boy's parents and kick them out as well, whatever that looks like. I'll tell you what though, I said someone needs to offer her a contract. If you can break those defensive lines and get onto the pitch, that's the type of initiative and the type of speed and elusiveness that we need on this team. And sign her up. That was my man of the match performance right there. But I guess technically it's a woman of the match performance. So props to her. It was impressive, but at the same time, you kind of impeded the possibility of winning that game.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering why are some of these restarts so slow in extra time, and now I know why. Yeah, I mean, I think you're making a good point that we have seen this team score a lot of late goals. And that I think that even predates Messi. I think that is kind of the DNA of this team. There's been a lot of turnover in the last 4 years, but that is something that we as fans of this club have kind of come to expect, that that we will see moments of magic from the 88th minute on. I mean, we came up, I think you and Dan came up with the heart attack Herons, for a reason. There's a reason why we called them that.
Going back to Indy Vasilov, I think even before that, and with Breck Shea and playing away at Orlando, there just seems to be
Christopher McVeigh with that screamer into the top of the net, and in the 95th minute of a match, and these were bad teams, so these were the only moments of joy that we were getting once a month.
The highs are high because there's so many lows.
There'd be one thing that would happen. We're talking. We talked about all this stuff in this last hour, and that's in the last 2 weeks. There were weeks where we'd be like, man, there's nothing good to talk about on this team.
Oh yeah.
But so I mean, as fans that have been here and support this club and are going to be here, moving on after this era, it is something kind of that I think we expect and we want to see out of this team, and that Messi and the Fantastic Four are continuing to provide. And so it is a little bit disappointing that that fan interference could and did potentially impact their ability to do that. But my takeaway from the game ultimately is what I said early on, which is it's the first third of the season. We're still in the top 3 in the East. I think we're only 2 or 3 points out of first place. I'm not worried about this. These results are not going to keep us out of the playoffs. It's all going to be about seeding down the road. Now, we have a bad stretch in June, July, after Leagues Cup, that. We get into the actual middle half of the season, the final third of the season, we start stringing, bad results together or draws that should be wins. Then I will be more critical. But right now, our focus isn't on the regular season. It's about treading water. We've put ourselves in a strong position. I mean, I can't, if you went back and looked at this team's results this far into a season, I think that this is clearly the best we've ever been in any year this far into a season.
For sure.
We won the first 2 games last year, and then we rattled off 6, 7 straight losses.
We bought in. We were like, yeah, we're good finally.
and it was a rough ride.
Streak comes. Yep.
We get a draw. Oh, good. Okay, it's over, and then we roll right back into another 6, 7 game losing streak. So I don't see us having to suffer through that stuff again. It's all about perspective for me, and I think that sitting in the top 3 in a nice, comfortable position, not losing any kind of real ground to teams ahead of us. And last night, I think with how the results went really well for us. Red Bull is obviously better than everybody expected, but they're still not running away with the East.
Yeah.
We would be, we're tied for second place or tied on points.
Tied for Columbus. Second place in terms of points. Yeah.
So I mean, listen, it's a long season. Is still the beginning of the season. So
it's a 5-way tie for second place, technically.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm
just on points. We can get into the goal differentials and all that, but yeah.
And do any of the teams below us worry you?
No, not at all. And no. I mean, to your point, the league play is not the focus right now. Hence, the Big Four not starting the match. We put them in the second half, but they want to keep them rested because I think we're going to get a full 90 minutes of the Inter Miami everyone has grown to love and to love to watch and support. I mean, it's going to be 90 minutes of all out in Mexico on Wednesday, and
Right.
not just full force and playing a game, but playing a game where you've got to produce goals to win. And I think it's going to be probably. I mean, if you look at it like that, probably one of the most highly anticipated games in the club's history. Because
I think it is.
what they got to
The
do.
the most important game in club history is going to be Wednesday night, more than Leagues Cup final. Because the implications are, Leagues Cup got us to here, right?
Mhm.
This is the step beyond Leagues Cup. Wednesday night is about getting us to the next round of this competition, into the semifinals, to then play, likely what, Tigres,
Yeah, Tigres or
New England, but I don't think New
Columbus,
England.
because
Oh, New
Tigres and
England or
Columbus
Okay.
scored. New England's on the other side, and they got
They got
crushed. What, like
spanked.
4-0 by it was Atlas. So I mean, yeah,
America.
what we're looking at right now is most likely going to be playing Tigres. It's Tigres and Tigres and Columbus, and then on the other side, who we got to look out for is Pachuca and Club America.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's the sole focus of this team right now should be this tournament. We have no Open Cup to worry about, even though that upsets me personally because I love the Open Cup. Um, but we're not going to have the same kind of schedule congestion in the middle part of our season. Our schedule congestion is right now. And so we got to get through Wednesday. We win Wednesday, the schedule congestion will continue, but with the focus still being on this tournament,
Yeah.
because this tournament is the key to opening up the doors and the purse strings, frankly, for the team for getting into that Club World Cup.
yeah,
Because the money that comes with that is massive for a team like us.
And we're playing for a spot in the semifinals. And then
Yep.
it just would be essentially Tigres or Columbus staying in the way of getting to the final. And I mean, that's where you want to be, right? Club World Cup. And then we get to go out and get smoked by Liverpool or Arsenal. But whatever. It's just about making it there, right? It's just about the experience. And of course, the purse for winning the Leagues Cup and the purse for winning this will also be substantial. But it's going to be fun. And Messi and Suarez and Alba got a chip on their shoulder, and I think they're going to come out there and deliver. And I'm excited, man. I really am.
Me too. I can't wait for it.
Anything else you got on your mind that you wanted to discuss? I mean, we've covered quite a bit, brought everyone back up to speed. Sorry for leaving town and enjoying my life. I apologize. We'll get right back onto our scheduled cadence.
Yeah, no. I don't think you have anything to apologize for. You're a busy man, and I think we're all all independently busy too. It's just one of those things that happens. But no, as far as the team, no, I am, I am. My biggest concern is the injuries.
Yeah, it's growing,
and that's it. Is that that is really the only thing that I believe will derail this team from achieving its goals, is more and significant injuries that are occurring that is exposing this team's depth. Because I didn't think depth was a problem until we started stacking injury on injury on injury.
Yeah, it's like every game.
Yeah. And now the depth is becoming a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's would be a problem for any team in the MLS because of the way that these rosters are built. And so, it's not a problem unique to us, but because of the constraints that this team has, we can't be like a Monterrey or a Club America or a Pachuca or a Tigres, where, as I think one of the MLS managers said, they're bringing DPs off of their bench.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can't do that. The restrictions are such on our teams that we cannot build a team that way. We can't spend the money that they're spending, even though we probably have owners that would be willing to spend the money that they're spending. We can't do it. We have to work within the constraints and the confines of what we have. And, that is going to hold this team back to some degree. But if we can weather the storm and get healthy and stay healthy, the sky is the limit for this team. It really, really is. From every competition that we're going to be in, we could win it. And I still think that. I'm not going to nitpick stuff, until there's a time to truly nitpick it, but I don't think we're there yet. I think we need a little bit more, a broader sample size, and to get healthy. And, if we get healthy, I don't think anyone's going to have anything to really complain about.
Well said. Well said. You're a breath of fresh air. I'll tell you what, buddy. But thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Inner Mind podcast. Jorge, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely.
At JorgeDTA.
Yep.
On Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at InterMIA Podcast. On Instagram, it's at IMPC_2020. We will post the media, the brochure, whatever you want to call it, for the EAFC tournament, as well as the link to sign up and register. So keep an eye on that. But as we end every single episode, vamos Miami.
Vamos Miami.